Niall Young, name your 15 or just handful, but no, we've got 15
No, we've
from
got more than
Super,
that.
yeah, and subs from Super Rugby that have underperformed this season. So,
Yeah, and
Harry, how do you want to do this?
the first thing that comes to my mind is Homer Simpson going, now the favorite part of every podcaster's chat, the cut. Joe Moody, your cut. Kurt Eklund, your cut. Alan Alatoa, I really like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you.
That's well done. I don't know if you planned that. That was good. But yes,
I
that's
didn't.
the front row. That's the front row.
That is the front row, yeah. Moody,
Yep.
Eklund, and Alatoa. So Moody just, I mean, a man that we thought was an absolute rock in the front row for the last 25 years, it feels like. I think he's just been overtaken by pretty much every other New Zealand prop, who, mind you, have all been playing very, very well. He's not as dominant at scrum time. He's not as versatile. I think he played 10 games before he got injured. So he's definitely got a big enough body of work for it to count, and just not quite there.
Yeah. And then we've got Kurt Eklund. He's just been usurped by Ricky Riccatelli. I mean, the last few years, we were saying he could be an All Black. You know, he's been there for a while. He's been playing well enough, but he's been usurped, and not by a young man. Ricky Riccatelli is 28. Eklund is obviously slightly older, I think. He is 31. So it's not like they're really planning long term. You know, that's what they're trying to find. They've obviously just think that Kurt Eklund doesn't bring as much to that side as Ricky Riccatelli.
I think it's just his line out. It's just not good enough. He's throwing. That's what's hurt him. But, man, he was a top fantasy hooker last year, and he's just barely got game time.
Yeah. So that hurts. And then
Alan Alatoa, obviously an absolute pod favourite. We love him, but we're just used to him just making huge tackle numbers every single week, making some good runs, being a rock at the scrum. I reckon the Brumbies set piece has gone down a little bit this year. They've managed his workload pretty well. He's just absolutely not peaking yet. I mean, it can be a little bit forgiven because we expect he should be our tight head for the World Cup, and maybe he's just building into that, but probably not at his best this year. I think he's been a bit underdone, sadly, and now he's got a big calf injury, so he's going to be out for a little while.
Look, it's not a substantial thing. In 2022, he made a tackle every 5.88 minutes. This year, it's been every 6.77 minutes. So it's, you know, a minute extra. But the thing is, he's not making the same impact, I think, in terms of the stuff that you're seeing as well. Like, I think he might be a little bit quieter in other measures as well. Like, I don't think we're seeing him as much make the impacts in breakdowns, things along those lines. As you said, the scrum's been a little bit lower. He's making some fewer tackles. And I think the only reason he's on this list is we've got such a high expectation from him because he's been so good for so long. And we think he's, you know, world class and potentially up there at times as the best tight head in the world. And at the moment, he's not at that level.
Yeah. Pushing along.
But hopefully he gets there.
Speaking of disappointing, I mean, that's the 23, right? Or 25, I think we got.
This is harsh, but
loss.
the whole team.
I've got Darcy Swain and Angus Blythe. I mean, two of them, you know, just the champions of yellow and red cards this year, and Swain for the last few years. So I think that goes against him. Swain had a blinder a couple of weeks ago, but it was his only solid big minute performance for the whole year. And Blythe just hasn't been able to get going. Injured to start the year, came on red carded immediately, and since coming back into the side after that, just hasn't been able to get his motor going again. So they're two guys that I think we had quite high expectations of, and they haven't been anywhere near it.
Look, Swain has been a Wallaby, and at the moment he is the fourth best lock at the Brumbies.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's insane. So
Angus Blythe was knocking on the door last year, and he's nowhere near it now.
Yeah, so that's it for us. Again, expectations just not being met, the main thing there. If we jump across into the back row, I mean, you wouldn't expect this guy to be thrown out, but Peter Gus Sua'ali'i, then we've got Tom Christie, Marina Mekele-Tu'u. There's some big names in that back row. Peter Gus Sua'ali'i, obviously, what did he get? One All Blacks cap?
Yeah.
And then heading offshore and everyone's
like
going,
4 minutes or something, wasn't it? Like 4 minutes.
Yeah, in there. It was a stitch up. But he's really fallen in terms of his form. Tom Christie, he works hard around the paddock. He has had some big matches in D, but his average per game has dropped from close to 20 to 12, 13, something along those lines. And when one of your biggest things is tackling, if you're dropping such a significant amount, you start to sort of fade away a little bit. And I think that's something we've noticed from him. His steals and things have gone down a little bit as well. Things that may be attributed, from the Crusaders' performance throughout a lot of the year, but he was probably better at the start of the year when the Crusaders were struggling. And as the Crusaders are coming to form, I think he's fallen away a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was running a bit more in the first half of the year when they were losing a lot of their big back rowers, and I think that kind of dropped his work rate. And now, as you've had the likes of, let's say Cullen Grace, for example, coming in and playing some more minutes and carrying the ball a little bit more, he just isn't getting the opportunity, and he's just kind of been pushed out of the game a little bit to his own standards. And then Marino Micheletu'u, like if he is the hands down choice at number 8, right? 2 years ago, he was probably the third ranked back rower for his effect on the game in fantasy footy. He was just tearing it up, ripping up trees left, right, and centre. Last year, I think he was 4th or 5th. Like 2 years of being a fantastic, damaging back rower. The bloke gets picked earlier in the year and then gets an injury and now just cannot get his spot back. He's seemingly fallen behind Urent and Sean Withy. And he's just long gone. Like he's just nowhere near a Highlander side. That's been incredibly disappointing.
Crazy. When he broke onto the scene, him and Sotutu were very similar levels, in that first season. And I think Micheletu'u, broke onto the scene above Sotutu for that first part of that year. But yeah, it's a bit of fall from grace. He's still young, got plenty of time. I don't know, he's got to be 22, 23, 23 maybe. But yeah, he's got plenty of time. But he has been absolutely destroying opposition the last few years. So it's a big drop for him. We jump across 25. There you go. Halves partnership. We've got Finlay Christie, Ben Donaldson, Harry.
Yeah, I think Finlay Christie, a little bit like Alan Alatoa, we just had such high expectations for him. And I know there's people that probably won't disagree with this one. And we had a couple of other close nominees as well. But he was, the heir apparent to Aaron Smith last year at the All Blacks. And I just don't think he's had anywhere near the same impact on the game as he has. He's had good moments, but last year his passing was crisp every single game. He made damaging runs every single game. He's been left behind by the likes of Cam Roigard, Cortez Ratima off the bench as well. I guess that Brad Weber, you could say in a similar vein, just not quite hitting the highs of what he did last year. But for us, Finlay Christie, the All Black last year, he just needs to be at a high level and probably not quite there this year.
I agree. Ben Donaldson, it took him, a couple injuries to be able to get to the position where he wants to play at fly half. And he had some consistent time there, something that we thought would probably get him back into the real form that we know he can be in. He has improved, I think, once or twice in the last couple weeks. He's shown that he can take the ball to the line, actually split the line. But all in all, throughout this year, I think he's looked very, very quiet. And I don't want to say a shadow of the man that made a Wallabies squad in a Wallabies debut, but he's not looking the same as well. And I think he needs some consistent time at 10. And if that's in the Western Force, I don't want to see him go, but if that's in the Western Force, hopefully, we get to see the highs we've seen from him in the past.
Yeah, at centre we got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Apisalome Vota. Firstly, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck probably started the year better than he's finished. He had a little injury, signed back for the Warriors, and it seems like the Blues have just given him the finger and said, see you, mate, if you want to leave, you're surplus to requirements. But Harry Plummer, playing at 10 and 12, has not played that well to hold a player of his calibre out. And then now Bryce Heem's been picked above him. Like, seemingly everybody will be picked above him. They're just not going to play him. He's not needed, apparently. He had one game recently where he started. He only played 40 or 50 minutes, and he had one really good-looking run, but that was it, So just so far down on the man that was pushing for an All Black squad.
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy, to be fair. And then Apisalome Vota, again, we just knew him from last year being absolutely dominant in that centre partnership with Ravovo. And, Yosefa Marcy came onto the scene. They tried to push him out to wing, realised that he didn't really suit wing as much as he did in that 13 channel. And it means Vota's just faded away. He had moments off the bench. He had a couple starts, and he didn't really take those chances throughout the year. And because of that, he's our 13. And I don't know if there's anyone that really comes close early in the season. Preece was quiet, but he's really come good and looking really good form. But we haven't seen any uptick from Vota.
From fantasy footy, he was tied with Geordie Barrett and Scott Gregory. Scott Gregory's probably up there in this list as well. I can't believe we didn't name him. Yeah. But he ranked above David Havili as well last year. Like the drop for him is just insane. Outside backs, I've got Manasa Mateele in my number 11 jersey. I know he can play the other side as well, but really he was the Force's best player by country mile last year, and the game plan was very much give the ball to Mateele. It seems like that's not the game plan anymore, which seemingly could be part of his demise. He's obviously battled some Achilles injuries and things as well, but he has just been so underwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The other one is Julian Savia. I think for us, I thought the last couple of years he's a Kiwi winger, and he's above the age of, was it 25 or whatever?
27.
Maybe 26 even. I don't know. 27. That might be generous these days. And so, he doesn't have the energy in his legs that he used to and the speed in his legs that he used to. And Super Rugby is a very fast, physical game. He has shown he's still a very, very good player. But I mean, the drop is clear. I think he's showing that he's not, he's not of the standard that we've come to, expect from him.
Yeah, I think you might even be a bit generous there. He's been disappointing. He scored 3 tries in the entire year. He's played more minutes than Royasi and Kinina-Holo. His attacking stats would be nowhere near them, and that includes a double for his 3 tries. Like the man, I really hope he scores one more to finish the year, but now that he's injured, I think he busted his shoulder. It might not happen, but he's on the end of an expansive Hurricanes backline. Like he should just be making a lot more damaging runs than that. And last year he was just so exceptional as well.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have the pace in his legs to finish off some of the opportunities presented to him, when we know the other wingers definitely would. It honestly felt on a couple of occasions they've gone, let's get this man the record, and they've started him and nothing's happened. And I think that's happened a few times, and that probably is part and parcel why he's on this list as well. But we have one more name in the starting side, and
the captain.
You questioned. You go, do you have a fullback? And I went, it's got to be Kurtley Beale.
He's so far and away the El Capitan of this squad because he got himself arrested before the season even started. Like, what more do you need? It's not an injury, so we can't say it's because of that. So I think he absolutely deserves to be in this side. I think he's a shoo-in. The captain of the squad, it may as well be called the Kurtley Beale squad of 2023.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're innocent till you prove it guilty, but let's be honest, he's underperformed this year.
He's definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, we thought he was coming back and he was going to push himself into the chance of a Wallabies jersey. Instead, he's pushed himself into a jail cell and a chance of being in there for a while.
Through the subs, Nels, we've got Mesalami Dolokoro at hooker, who we just thought had such a big last year and just can't get anywhere near the starting side now. Dane Zander from the Reds at loosehead, who we thought was exceptional last year as a young player coming through, just hasn't been able to reach the same highs, and their set pieces really struggled. And John Ryan coming over from the UK, he was, a capped international, like an experienced older player for sure, but just has not been able to keep up. It's I know it's the kind of the twilight of his career, but he should be right for a Joe Moody role. Play 40 minutes, get him off the field and just do a great job at all your core roles. He just hasn't. So, I mean, that's our front row reserve.
I think the big thing was he hasn't seemed to scrummage as well as we expected from him as well. Yeah. We'll make note that this is basically an under-20s lineup because they had an extended bench. This is an extended bench because we want to shit on more people. There's Isaiah Walker-Leawere in the locks for us. Yes, he's looked decent at times, but again, a player that was breaking out. We've got Tom Robinson, the big sauce, slowly becoming the empty sauce bottle. James Lenches as well to round out that back row, or the Lucy's.
Yeah, I've got reserve halfback James Tuttle. He was voted equal best player for the Rebels last year, and he has fallen so far behind Ryan Lonergan now. Bodie Barrett has had a few good moments like Finlay Christie, but just nowhere near his best, and has obviously fallen down the pecking order for New Zealand. And it could actually cost him a World Cup spot. I'm not sure it will, but on form it probably should. I've got Jack Goodhue as my reserve centre. Just, again, like since coming back from injury, he's had one reasonable game, but he's just nowhere near the player that we remember at the moment. And, for a bloke that was just so exceptional at 12 and 13, he really needs to find some form.
To round it out, we've got Jonah Lowe, a player that, on the end of a very good back line, has not really done a lot to light up our screens this season. And he is a very good, talented player. And Sua'ali'i Vunivalu, the cattle pride, worked for 1 week. I think, Eddie's just going to have to keep chasing with it every single week, because he lights himself up, got a bit excited once or twice after that little incident. And then after that, he's gone back to his quiet old self. I'm very, I wouldn't say slowly, but I'm very much losing hope. I wouldn't be picking the bloke in the Wallaby squad, and I hope we don't pick him.
No, it doesn't seem near it at the moment.
No, and I'm pretty sure he signed and he's taken a discount. Is that what's happened? He's not signed for as much money, but he's staying.
Yeah,
like I'm happy that he's staying. Good on him, but I'm not against him leaving.
I still just think he needs to get his body right. He still doesn't look completely comfortable running. For a Ferrari, he's stuck in first gear. The gearbox is damaged.
That's it. That's the issue. He just doesn't seem like he can trust himself.
No,